Keith is our project manager for the building project. He's been the one who is
find it.
He's been the one working in the background, working with TMC and everyone like that to do things. He's come to talk a little bit about
Get it on. Can I just hold it?
There we go.
I thought you were just going to hand me that.
Yep, I'm going to hand you that and let you go.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. Yes, so my name's Keith and I am your project manager, which answers some of the questions that I've had this morning. So thank you for your welcome over the bacon sandwiches and the 2 gentle interrogations as to why I was here and who I was. So let me tell you a bit about myself first. So this will be my 3rd church building project of this nature. The first one was my own church, and I became a Christian after I turned 50, which was probably too many years ago. And at the time, I joined a church that was just like this one. We met in a school hall, and gradually we grew and grew and grew, and we were able to think about having our own building project. Like this one, it had taken about 15 years to get from the thought of having your own building to actually starting it. But I then project managed that church, and that's the Sea Salter Christian Centre, if I think some of you have been there. After that, I was then approached by a vineyard church who were selling their old small building and bought this huge factory to convert into a church. But at first, before that, they tried to do a new church building on a greenfield site, failed to get planning, and then they were very disappointed and quite down. And then within 6 weeks, this empty factory building came up, and it's now a really wonderful church and community centre in Whitstable. So this is the 3rd one. And although I'm project manager, my role, normally a project manager would be interested in just constructing the building and getting everything in line for that. For me, the job is wider, partly because the diocese have made it wider, and partly because I like doing church projects. So all of my work at the moment revolves around working for either the diocese or independently for churches, helping them put their buildings either into order or building new buildings. And that for me is part of my faith, and it's what I'm invested in doing. So this project is personal to me, first of all, but also my role as given by the diocese is to act also on your behalf. So not just to build a building, but to make sure it's a church and that you're ready to move into it, as well as the building's ready to receive you. So as part of that, I've been involved for 2 years now on this project, and I've met regularly with your MLT and Mark, and they're part of the project team. So why am I here now after 2 years? And the answer is that we've reached rather an important point in the project. So building-wise, as you know, we got the planning permission just before Christmas. It was literally just before Christmas, which meant that we then went out to tender in January, and at the end of March, we got back 4 tenders for building the new church. From there, we've then had to spend a month, and it's taken a month because of Easter falling in the middle of April, to have a look at those tenders, and we're now going to go back to 2 of the contractors probably and work in detail through their figures. And that's going to take, well, we've got until the 1st of July to accept their tenders. And once we've been through the figures, which I'm going to do next week, and then with the contractors probably the week after, the diocese have then got to push it through the various levels of authority there. And I have to tell you that it's come in several £100,000 higher than we thought. And we thought that it would be quite high, I have to say, but we gave up counting halfway through last year because with coming out of COVID and the shortage of materials and then the war in Ukraine causing all sorts of difficulties and inflation, it was just impossible to try and keep track of the numbers. So we've got a difficult situation where we've got to go through and see what the real number is. Can we reduce it? Can we change it? Can we do various things? And then can we fund it? And an important part of that is the contribution from St Gabriel's. And Mark pointed out the £113,000 in the accounts, in the bank. 100,000 of that is pledged to the diocese to kick off the construction. And it's important that you've raised that, and really important that you can meet that commitment which you made about 2 years ago to put in that initial money alongside all the money that they've got to put in at this point to fund what to them is a very key strategic project. So I'm here to thank you for the 100,000 which you're just about to pay over to the diocese, and to urge you to keep going, because if there's one thing I've learned from the other two major projects is it requires a big and ongoing commitment from the congregations. And some people on both of those projects have said to me afterwards, thinking about how I can give, and give maybe sacrificially, has actually really deepened my faith. To actually sit down instead of just going, well, how much shall I give each month? Towards the church running, how much am I going to sit and contribute to a new church building? A building that will sit here for, I don't know, 75 or 100 years. It's about what we're going to look like in this place for the next 75 years, what our children are going to have to worship in, and what it means to the community to have a visible church within their community. And they're big questions to consider for yourselves, and you can only do it individually and respond individually. Nobody is going to say what the figure should be, or how much, or how long, or anything like that. Nobody, and I suspect Mark won't even know who's given what, so that's a job for your treasurer. So doing a church project can be hugely beneficial to your own personal faith. I'd say that first. But secondly, I'm here because I need your help. The next stage after the 100,000 is that we've then got to raise £300,000 over the next 3 years through grants and gifts. And for that, we need to be very, very clear about what sort of church you are now and what sort of church you're going to be in the new building. So to help you with that, I'm going to be running 2 Saturday morning sessions. One, I think, will probably be on May the 13th, and then probably June the 10th. They won't be over long, they should be fun, and they should be really, really interesting, because we look at what are you going to look like as a church in Kings Hill when you're in a new building. Why do you need that new building? What are the changes it's going to make to what you are now? And also, because you're a very community-focused church now, What are you going to put in place so that you don't become a very building-focused church in the future? Because it's important that we keep that community-facing church. So those are the things we're going to look at over those 2 weeks, and they're going to be a month apart because we need some reflection time between the two meetings. We will then take that information and those views and opinions and put them into the grant applications that will go forward to raise the extra money. So I want to implore as many of you to come to those 2 Saturday mornings. That's the end of the commitment to me for those 2 mornings. It's not, you're not signing up for life to be part of a church committee. It's 2 mornings, and we need as many opinions and as many views as we can get, or even as many nods as we can get to the conclusions that we reach at the end. So that's the second reason why I'm here. And the other one, I think I'm going to be around at the end, so if anybody's got any more questions to ask me about the project, they can do, and that's great. But just to say, sometimes it can be really little things. So one of the questions to me today was, it'd be really nice if we had a bell at the church. And I was able to say straight away, well, we do. We have a bell at the new church. That is in the plan. And I initially said, and it'll have a nice handle so that, but no, you won't have to pull on a rope, you'll press a button, but there is going to be a church bell there. And it could be one that used to belong to another church somewhere, and it's been brought back into use, which would be really nice. Or alternatively, my own favourite is to try and find an RAF station bell and use that. But, these are the details I can move on to once we get the construction contract awarded. So again, thank you for your hospitality this morning. Thank you for all the support you've given the project so far. And in conclusion, I urge you to keep going, because we have reached a really big strategic point in the project today.